Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the Rockingham School Board meeting.
All right, it's 5:31. I'm going to call the Rockingham Board meeting to order. And we have Caitlin here and Jim here and myself, Priscilla here. There's just three of us, I think, tonight, which makes a quorum for us. And so we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. As I
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any adjustments to the agenda? I was thinking that maybe just under D, old business, just adding just a comment on the strategic plan.
Okay.
And anyone else? Okay, if not, communications and public comment. Just watching, thank you. Okay. Not seeing any. It had review and approve the board minutes of September 18th. We approved those last time. We do need to approve October 2nd, but I think those are not on the website, so we'll have to do those at the next meeting. Old business, update on ESSER projects. Andy, can you give us anything new on that?
I don't have any updates as far as the last time we met. No.
Okay. Okay, so is the central school one still projected for, is it now January?
The cafeteria is right now in January.
January.
So,
Yes, and the other, we don't know about the. Laura, are they starting soon?
A general time frame, but this was back prior to the start of the school year. We haven't gone out. I don't know if they have it this
yeah,
point,
we're still
but
waiting on bids and
Still
things haven't
bids.
gone out, so.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, Steve
It's
said
already, yeah.
December, January.
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact same. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, nothing has moved, so.
Okay, next is capital improvement. Is there anything new on the stairs for here?
Yeah, so on Tuesday, Steve and I walked the middle school here with Rick Schumann and went up on the roof. It's an interesting place. Interesting way to get up
Interesting
there.
way to get there.
Yeah. It was not fun. But it was really informative to be up on the roof. Got a real good look at the parapets. And Steve took some pictures, I took some pictures, and I might pull them together at one point to bring them here to you all. But on the parapets, and just so everyone knows what a parapet is, it's kind of like a shelf that runs around the building here. And there's two of them. There's one that kind of is just above the top floor windows, and then there's one below, like about the second floor window or something. So there's two of these that run, and they're cement castings. So and they've deteriorated over years. And when about 10 years ago, when you had renovations done in the building, they started to cap them with metal, and then they stopped. So they started on this side, and they got, I don't know, about a certain distance, and then they stopped. And then they started on the front, and they come around almost right to pretty close to where the building then kind of comes in for the center part, and they stop. And then they do not continue all the way around. And then right at the center where there's there's kind of like a pinnacle kind of look, those are capped. But again, other parts aren't. And then the lower ones, nothing's capped on those. And Rick couldn't recall exactly why they stopped. He thought that it might have been that when cost overrides and they have to pull people, or when the issue happened here with this floor, this lower floor, did they pull people off of that project to go over, but they never went back and finished the capping. So those pinnacles, that cast cement is deteriorating and it should be capped. Also at the top of the building, again, where that pinnacle is, there's two castings that are kind of like a scroll. It's the best way I can describe it. It's and when you look at it from the street, they look fine. On the back end, they are almost completely deteriorating, and they got cracks open that we think water could be getting in and then going down. You just don't know. And so I asked Steve to kind of think about, give me a ballpark. Like, I don't think you'd really cap them because they're a scroll and you would lose the aesthetics of it, but do you replace? And so it's something that I think we're gonna have to get a cost on and figure that. The other thing that we discovered walking around, because we were looking at, you know, the idea of like the, as far as needing pointing or a mason coming in. And what Steve really believes we need is like a caulker, like a master caulker or a painter, because many of the windows are starting to separate from where the stone is. And so you've got, you know, that natural separation, but it's only been 10 years. So that's, but we're seeing it in a lot of places. There's a lot of places where joints where you've got brick coming up to concrete, where that's just opened up a little bit. And so all that needs to be sealed, basically. And then there are a couple of sills that again are all cast concrete. So they're not like granite or marble, something like that. So the cast concrete are starting to, like, literally a chunk fell off of one. And then there are other places you can see some cracks. So they may need to be completely removed and replaced. And then the windows themselves, because the windows are the original windows that they were taken out, new casement things were done, but then the actual windows are the original windows, so they're wood, and they have not been painted, it looks like, since the renovation was done. So that needs to be painted again. So the other part was the steps, which led into this whole thing. So we looked at the steps, right? We're talking about the steps out here to, what would that be, south or no, west, on the west side of the building, and then the steps on the side on Cherry, or not Cherry, whatever that road is. Cherry, okay. So those steps that are deteriorating, and so Steve thinks we may need to just bid out the whole job almost on a day, like an hourly rate kind of thing, as opposed to come in and bid the whole job, because this is painting, that's cement, this is caulking, and there are different people who kind of handle that. So there might be someone, so he's putting an RFP together for me, but he's also going to give me his best educated guess on cost. So that you at least have a number to kind of think around in your head. We were tossing around, you know, it could be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 to recommend maybe using in surpluses to put aside just for capital improvements. Because the other pieces was out at Saxon's River last week, and that building is in really good shape for its age. I mean, I think folks have done a good job out there, but it needs a power wash and it needs a paint job. That's probably the two big things that, just looking at it, I mean, really remarkable when you look at the age of the original building, that brick is in really good shape. You know, and then I think there's some stairs, the front steps we need to kind of be addressed and stuff like that. So, and then at Central, and we've noted it here before, right? It needs a good power wash and it needs a good paint. And then, you know, and then it's, you know, some discussion about some of the windows, because like, again, Saxon's River, you replaced all the windows and you've got aluminum windows, you know, moldings and everything in there. And so those are in great shape, but at Central, you've got the original kind of push out windows. and things like that. And so, is replacing those the right thing, is putting something in that's got a higher R value, that's gonna save you some funds there, type of thing. Those are some of the things to look at, but, so Steve's gonna put something together, just big picture. I'll jump into the next one real quick, which is, very appreciative. Scott Pickup and Andy, I can't think of his last name.
Yeah.
He came out and, we met with them a couple of weeks ago. And then they came out on Monday last week, saw cut out all the bad area and then filled it with concrete. So, so that's all been, brought back up, so it's not a tripping hazard or anything like that. And we spent a lot of time talking about, possibly redoing some of the front, where you have a ramp on one side. They were suggesting maybe a ramp on the other side and eliminating the steps going up in the front, which would possibly allow us to lower the curb, because the curb is really high. But then also moving some of the crosswalks from the playground to the front of the school, because they've got to bring all their steps and everything. They're gonna redo the sidewalks all along the Church Street there.
Church Place and
Yeah,
then
Church Place. So they're gonna redo all the sidewalks. They have to increase the width of them by 6 inches. And so they gotta redo the, where the road and the sidewalk meet for pedestrians, and bring it up to ADA compliant. They want to redo the crosswalks. And so we're recommending some different ways of looking at the crosswalks, so it doesn't have to be so straight all the time. And so it might be worthwhile doing all that work at one time. I couldn't get Steve, he had another appointment, so I think we're trying to get together this week or next to go over to Central and look at the bigger part, which is the water runoff that comes off of the hill. And looking at maybe putting in some new culverts. When the town did the road, they didn't do the parking lot area right in front of the school. So that needs to be redone anyway. But like the handicap accessible parking area, it's all wrong to code now. It needs to, the extra area needs to be on the passenger side. Trying to get some, Steve out there to give me some big numbers to then come back and be able to tell you about, like all those projects that I just added up would suck up probably easy $200,000. So, but wanting to make sure we put money aside, we might not do it all tomorrow, but as you move along, so that you kind of have it. So it's kind of the bigger picture.
Yeah, the one part of that central thing is, the runoff from the street. The town needs to take ownership of that. For us to make a capital improvement for culverts or whatever, I mean, that it shouldn't happen. There's ways to, double the roadway. Of course, it's not a through street, so it's just a dead end there now. So anyway, I think all the other stuff I agree with. But that, what they come up with on that is going to be important.
We did talk about it a little bit, and I mean, the town could, from their perspective, I was getting the idea, like they could come in and put a curb there, which would keep the water from flowing into our property, but then we wouldn't have a parking space. Like, so I think we need to work with them. And like I said, I'm very appreciative because when they came out, it was like, let's figure out a plan. Here we go. We got, and they took care of it. They didn't charge us for doing that cut and whatnot. And we were looking at it could cost us $10,000 to do that patch.
Yeah.
So I was appreciative that they were, they had the crew and they were able to do it. And so I think, because they're looking at a whole improvement in that area, we can work with them and see where it kind of, it's going to be mutual benefit. So,
yeah, I think it's important to find out what they're thinking and and what they can take care of for us, and because the school is actually good for them as well. So I think it's important. I agree with Jigs. It's really important to know before we get into it.
Right, and at this point, if we were looking at doing any kind of that kind of work, they're talking about doing the sidewalks this summer coming up, so we've got plenty of time to kind of think that all out, so. You know, and then there's paving of Saxon's River, you know, that would be ideal to pave that area, but I think it's, you know, going to be, that might be a big cost there, because, you know, you gotta come in, dig it out, put in the underlayment. I mean, I think they wanted $8,000 or something like that, or $10,000 for my little driveway, so, I can imagine a parking lot's gonna be pretty expensive. Because you don't already have asphalt down, so you can't just put a 1-inch cap on it, so.
Was there anything on that back playground? The parking space, Parks Place, did you have time to?
I have not had a chance to contact them, so I will do that this week.
We'll look at that next time. It's not listed on here. It's just, you were talking about it all the way around the central, so that's why I brought it up. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Andy? Okay, the strategic plan, I added that because, and going to the website, there is the strategic plan that the, committee did a couple years ago. That's on there. It's asking for feedback, but if you go to the link, you can't get into giving any feedback. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I've been getting tons of feedback. Because
Really? We tried it and we could not get in.
So you actually have to, there's 3 or 4 links underneath the strategic plan.
Okay.
One says community, one says parents, one says students, one says teachers. And you click on that and that takes you to a survey.
Okay, I'll try again.
So.
I also had trouble accessing it from the website when I went to the strategic plan, and then under that, there's the page for the survey.
Yeah.
But when I clicked on the survey piece, that it had an error, but when I Googled strategic plan, with
All right,
WNESU,
good to
I was
know.
able to
Okay,
get to it.
yeah, we'll take a look at it, because
I can
like I
see
said,
that.
I've been getting, because every time someone fills those out, I get an email.
Mhm.
So it's been dinging quite a bit, but we'll go back and look at it. So, and you're trying to do the community one, so it might be.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
He was
Person
like
that-
the general.
told me also was trying community,
Yes,
so.
so there might be an issue with the community one, so I'll take a look at that.
And it's a separate website for the strategic plan, right? That it's built out differently than the WNESU? Yes.
Yeah, so we did, so the platform that we have for the strategic plan is called Edlio.
Yeah.
And so, to build in Edlio just would take longer, so we built it in a Google site.
Yeah.
So that's all, so.
Were you looking for parents to, in community and everybody to, give suggestions on upgrading? Because I know that's basically the one we did a couple summers ago.
So we are looking for continued feedback because we've added some goals based on the work we did with the recovery team. We've then added some goals and reworded some goals, and so we're trying to finalize those so that we can move forward. So that is what we are looking for is feedback, yes.
Okay. Just was trying to find out what you were looking for specifically.
Well, so the survey directs for what we're looking for exactly.
Okay.
So it'll walk you through, but. So yeah, if you go to our website. And then under district administration, there's strategic plan, but then there's strategic plan survey opportunity. And that will take you right to the survey. And then there's the
Yeah,
button.
that's where I got an
Yeah,
error
and then-
message, but it seems like it's working. How
I don't
long
know if
is
it's because I own it.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe that's why I'm not having a problem, so.
I think I did have to refresh my like Gmail login to be able to
Yeah,
access
probably.
it, so I don't know if it was something
Yeah.
related to that, but, and I'm sorry, Andy, I think you've shared this before, but how long is the feedback open for, or?
We didn't put a deadline on it, so we're, hoping, we'll leave it open for a few more, for the rest of the month kind of thing, and maybe through November, and, watch it as it kind of dies, we'll do a poke to see if we can get some more drive and go from there, because we want to get as much feedback as possible.
Okay. Any other questions for Andy on that? Okay, if not, we're in new business, which is budget. So I guess Jim, if you want to explain where we're at in that process and
Okay.
what we can start discussing. Thank you.
So this is just the beginning of a process. And I don't want anybody to be offended that they haven't had any input yet, because this is a start. This is kind of to get you in the ballpark. That's all it represents. Information, data information that will be changing as we go forward. I just want to give you, so the second page in from the title page is kind of an index that helps if you're looking for particular areas. This may be helpful to you. Page 1 is, and I call this the operational budget for Rockingham, because it comprises of 4 different entities and brings it all into one. No, it's not the only way you can do it, but in the end, I mean, this is what comes forward as a warrant article. And that's all I'm trying to do, is to get the right number. So, on page 1, this gives you just a kind of a scope of looking at where you were this year, with some of the movements of costs that we know about. And I'll just reference to you, like principal and interest down at the bottom. That's 60 and 61. You'll see the principal stays the same. That doesn't change in the next year. On the other hand, the interest decreases by 15,000. So we've kind of put some of those pieces in just to, you know, it's what's going to happen. It's not a mystery. In this bottom section, I will say, and this is the way I try to look at it to see what has to be changed. If you go under the actual expenses for 23, which is on the left side, and compare it again, what is proposed, you know, just as an introductory, you'll see from 17, we expended 17 last year for sewer and water. We've got in the budget 21. Not too bad. I mean, I think we should be okay. Snow plowing, last year we expended $7,500. We've got 11,000 in the budget. Trash, we've got 10,800 in last year, and we've got 12,200 as a start for the budget. And I'm just referencing these because maybe it has to be changed. And I mean, I think as we go through, we certainly will sift through, you know, where we've got too much money or where we may not have enough. So the facilities are quick and easy, and it just gives you kind of an overall look. As I said, the one area which the board and super are going to have to look at is the projects. What projects have to get done? You know, we know we've got a 74,000 as kind of a holding place. Don't know how that ties in at all. It may not. It may be triple that. The top section for you know, people, and Andy, I was asked this before, because as we go through this, Title I. Now I've only got 2 staff members that are under Title I. Do you think that's correct for all 3 entities?
No.
Okay.
Because, several were pushed into Esther. So that's why.
But they wouldn't come out of this budget anyway.
They're under WNES.
Right.
But no, and
Yeah.
I know there's, but I'm saying that the Title I, teachers.
Assigned to
even though-
Rockingham schools that we are.
It show
Yes.
up, yeah.
And even though they're not in the general fund, I still wanted to show.
Yeah, we had meetings last week. I meant to get with, there are a couple that we need to,
Okay.
I think are coded wrong. That's all.
Yeah, okay, good. So the personnel, and again, as you decrease or add personnel, I mean, this will change. We did put in some numbers, for instance, on the health insurance. We're gonna get this probably the middle of next month, the real number. But for the start, we used 10%. Don't know if that's a good number. The principals will have to look at that third section down and you know, the contracted services, the supplies. The only thing that I did was to bring this year's number forward. And that may not be a good position to be in, but if you had a question, and I'll just reference it in this way, printing and copy, which is on line 33. Now, the printing and copying shows an expended of 35,700, but the projection for this year and next is 2,300. And you say, well, what is it? And so if you turn the next page, we've got the accounts set up by object coding. So the object code was 551, 5,551. So if we go to 551, which is on page, it's what, 10? Okay. So 551 is on line 294. So as you can see, this is contracted service media. And I'm not sure whether that's a copier that's in the library area. Don't know. But
Could that be like if the library subscribes to like that universal kind of book checkout thing or something like that as well? So we'll have to dig into that a little bit.
yeah, I'm not sure what that 23 is, but anyways,
I believe that's the price per copier.
what's that?
That's the price per copier.
No,
No,
No.
that's not in this number.
no.
It's down below.
But as you start to get questions of what's where, you can go to this object sheet and it'll help you in some of the detail.
But specifically with regards to copier expense,
Yeah,
that's down in that lower level now.
yeah,
I believe under, it's either under contract services or it's in the assessment, or it'll come through from the assessment from the WNESU.
yeah. And again, I will say, on page 50, we've got a breakdown of the copier and the copier costs that we charge to each entity. And I'm pretty sure, my recollection is that this is under an 1100. The copiers.
Jim, I think the 35,700 is tuition, should be in the 5561 line on the page 1,
Okay,
if I'm looking at this correctly. Because if you look on.
Which side you want to look?
On
page?
10, on page 10, about halfway down, see where it says 551 total, and then right after that, it's tuition Westminster.
Yeah.
It's 35.7, so I think it just, I think there's just like, it just needs to be shifted, because on the first page, those two lines are right next to
The
each
object,
other.
yeah, the
So it
object
just needs
is in
to
the.
be
in
like
the-
shift down below.
Yep.
Yeah, shifted down.
Awesome.
61, I believe.
Okay,
That's not in the budget, of course, there's nothing in the budget for that, that was,
no, but that'll have to go down to the next where the zero is.
Mhm.
So this will help you as you're looking for where items are. On page 16, this goes into the function aspect. And again, it gives you just a different way of looking. And you always want to think, this setup gives you what they call drill down capability. So as you start to say, health services, 336,000. Gee, that sounds high. What is that? You have the ability to go back for health services on page 22. And that kind of gives you the breakdown by object of that 336. Now, this gives you just one aspect. And if you said, look, I want to know what is being expended here. Drilling down, we're going to move further back. And on page 35, we're moving to the actual account structure. So this gives you a breakdown of each account that is being charged for the health services. And it gives you right now, it gives you the increases over on the far right. So, as you move further back on page 44, you'll start to see, you know, this is the personnel. And again, keeping in mind that personnel, I mean, this is 70% of your budget. So it means a lot. And that's where we want to make sure. I'm just getting the student data in now, and I haven't finished with it as yet, but again, I think that's a good tie-in, you know, to some of the cost movement. So there's 4 pages, and these are alpha and by function. And so these are where you'll see on page 47, you can see the two people that are entitled. And I just want to quickly go through page 48, contracted services for facilities. And this is something to keep an eye on. This is yearly. I mean, the fire extinguishers, the smoke detectors, all of the stuff within the building that has to be checked and contracted out. Page 49 is your insurance, property and liability insurance. And again, I projected at a 5% increase. Do not know what it's going to be. 50 is what we already talked about with the copiers. And again, copiers total is, 69,000. And again, I think, let me just say that, again, I think Andy and Ricky have done a tremendous job for sourcing out copiers. I've been in enough places where they didn't work efficiently. And again, we are all tied to these copiers, all of us. And they've got to function, they've got to put out. And mine, at least my experience is they're working fine. So
Where does these numbers hit our budget?
they hit your budget under the 1,100. Let's go over that. Hold on a minute. Yeah. I'm gonna go into the function side.
The function side of it,
Uh,
it's 15. No. 16 is the function.
yeah.
It wouldn't be school board for.
No. No, I don't think so. But I don't see him under the, I don't see
Is
him.
it the 2610?
Nope. I know we stuck the telephone under the principal's office. Did we stick the copiers there?
It had been under communications and stuff.
I didn't bring that report. But
There
there
is
is one.
Managed print services, so it's under the 2410. I'm looking at page 40. And this is line 33 through 35, 335.
2410.
Yeah.
Sorry, what lines?
333, 334, and 335.
Since managed print and copier service, and it's
Right.
got them broken down by schools
And this is under the,
on page 40.
Page
yeah, it's under.
under the, this is the principal's account.
So on page 17, it's that 5. That's still 1,100? No, you don't, oh, you got it.
Right, this would be.
It's not under general ed, that's
No,
the
no,
difference,
it would be under the principal page.
yeah.
But on the object side,
On the object side,
is the print, when it says printing and copying, we know it's not there, so. it's-
Right.
Right.
So it's under 24.
so it's 5441. 5441
The rental lease.
rental lease.
So it's on page 27 also.
So line 54, the 5441, right?
Yeah,
Right, but on page 27, if you're looking at, how's that broken out by function? It's under 2410,
2410,
Yes,
and it's rent copiers.
yes.
right. That's
So,
under the function side.
Yeah.
So it's, it might be helpful for some of the board members to kind of pick one approach and stick with it rather than finding them, because it's showing it two ways.
Yeah,
And,
Can be
and I think,
whenever
you might have asked that question a while ago back, and maybe not at this, I remember like, if the board says we want it by function, then we'll just
Yes.
provide it by function.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you want it by object, we'll do it by object.
Absolutely.
That way you don't have a book to look at all.
Yep.
Now,
Oh, it is nice to see it broken down both ways, so.
on the top lines, the teachers and the paras,
Yeah.
what do you have in there in terms of, obviously the contracts are up. Now, wait a minute, the teacher's contract is up.
Teachers' contract.
Support staff
The
is,
support staff is, there.
so the
and the-
support staff is in here.
Step
Steps,
and, whatever amount. They went up a step and each step increased a certain level. So that's done. That's all baked in.
And so the only changes you would have in the support is because we do have two columns, so if there was a paraprofessional who earned their associate's degree or something, then they would move into that second column. So that would be the only column movement that we potentially could have in the support staff. But other than that, it's just a step movement, so.
so the increases here, would be for, over last year's budget would be increases in staff.
Yes,
So we've got some increases in staff. I think for the first,
Where are you looking? Just so.
well, if you look at the, page
Oh.
one, you know, the teacher salaries are up 243,000. Now, some part of that is step
right.
movement.
Right.
Okay, and some, and also, custodians are in there.
No,
No,
just teachers.
just teachers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
so
custodians are support staff.
but that would be under, well, it would be in the,
They're further down on,
it's in the assessments from, we have Paris here, that we're up 130,000.
right, yeah.
Correct.
In Paris, to 243,000. All of that is in step movement. So.
Correct, from what was budgeted. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's why I was asking. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page as you for your ask so that I could research it.
It seems to me that the key to this budget or to any budget is to get the principals and Andy's recommendations on staffing in our budget. And then for the board to ask questions and debate that type of thing. We know from the WNESU board that the WNESU budget is going to be up fairly significantly because of some outplacement students that we have.
Right.
Is there another? Well, of course, the whole teacher negotiations is up in the air.
Some of them, I just will say this too, some of the problems, I mean, the state, they're gonna be behind on some of the big items that we normally would get. They have a yield, which on December 1st, the treasurer will release. And if that goes down, it could significantly hurt us. And I, as I said, I worry a little bit about what the Act 173 that was passed for special education, I think may have a significant, decrease in our revenue stream. So there's still a lot of pieces left.
Those are beyond our control.
Right.
We do have a list of employees also in here.
Right, yeah, and I think for our next meeting, that's what we need to focus. We need to come to some agreement on the staffing. And, the two title positions that are here, if it's on this page, it almost says to me, that means it's in our budget.
Yeah. I mean, this is,
But we shouldn't have title positions in our budget.
well, no, but I mean, and this, Jim, you can tell under the fund, this is a 2,000 number.
Yeah,
That 2,000 is for federal projects. Any federal project has a 2,000 fund. So
that's
this
not in
does,
our-
no, this does not, those two do not add into your numbers anywhere.
This is what Jim is saying, Andy, is that we only have two.
Yeah,
I thought we had
that-
more. I have,
There's also someone in we gotta dig through it, cause I saw someone who shouldn't be in this budget, who's in this budget,
Yeah.
so, I mean, so
I wish there was an easier way.
I,
well,
Gotta
you
tell
gotta
ya.
start, you gotta start somewhere, and I
Right,
think this
so-
is the way to start the discussion,
So anyways, it
but, you know,
gives
we
you
agree
data.
on those, and then you get into the fuel oil cost and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think a health insurance increase factored in of 10%
Yeah,
is, I would think is a reasonable number.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I'm anxious to see what it ends up.
We're not up too much. And we'll tell.
Yes, yes. Last page is just the student population, and again, this is not a final product yet. I've got to reconcile some of the. Okay, so I just want to, on page 65, that's your reserve fund.
Okay,
And
yeah, I
again,
was gonna double check that, and I just haven't gone into it, just to make sure, because there was a glitch back, a couple of years ago, where some of it was in one place and not in the other, and I want to make sure it
yes,
was
absolutely.
reconciled at the time. I didn't get to look.
You've got 815,000 of SU funds that has to be taken care of as well in the process.
Anyone, any questions?
Just on the last page with the students, I can't remember from last year, the preschool numbers, the community and the EE partnership, what are the?
The EE partnership, I think that is something that Jan has taken on. It's a full day, right, Andy?
yes,
That's the
That's
full.
the pilot expansion?
Yeah.
And the, okay. And then the community preschools is the tuition paid to,
Right, and I think that's about 3,700, somewhere in there.
okay,
For each student over the year.
got it. Okay.
And at least we've got some money budgeted. So. Well, hopefully it at least will start you to think about how you want to shape it, what you want to do, because, you often get into times where it seems like you've got forever, but you don't. And,
We were
and
just
this,
saying the school just started, and here we are.
Yeah.
April, October,
Hey,
so.
I'll be honest with you, I talk with superintendents and other folks from around the country, and nobody does a budget this early, other than New England. That's what everyone keeps saying to me, and Vermont seems to be even earlier than the others, and
yeah,
I know some superintendents who don't have to do their budget, they're not even, they're voting on their budget right now for the current school year. Like, they have a year to prepare their budget, like, you know, for the taxpayers. And I talked to one superintendent who their school district is able to carry, they're carrying $18 million in reserves.
And I
They
understand
keep one year as a rainy day fund. So he has an 11 something, you know, $11.5 million operating budget, and they keep 18 million. And they just built this whole new gym or something and didn't raise any taxes or anything of that, or bonds or anything to have it, because they have the reserves. And it's just it's the taxing structure. It's just different. So,
And Vermont, that taxing, the Vermont property tax, it's just so unforgiving in the time that's required. It just is not there.
and it's not lined up, right? If it were all lined up, it would make sense and you would have good numbers right now. But
Yeah, I always had to have all my requests in by the end of September.
Yes.
For the net following year.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do I know? I don't know what students I'm gonna have or anything else, so you're guessing.
Does make it challenging.
Yeah. But we do the best we can, and that's all we can do. It's trying to keep costs down for our taxpayers, but provide the very best in education that we can for those students, because those are our future taxpayers, our future people, and we need them to be ready. So it's crucial. Good thinkers. And I'm glad we've got the staff we have that are teaching them how to think, because that's the important thing.
Jim, on page 65, the reserve. It's laid out here, 2017 to 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. And in each of the years, 2017, it looks like it was about 178,000 for capital reserve. I don't know what that 55,000 was. Then there was a 300,000 addition in 19. The 100,000 next under it is a real estate. I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Okay.
I didn't pick it up. When I went back and looked at the actual article and read that, I didn't pick it up that it was for real estate, but I will.
Real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
100,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was 100,000 put aside to.
Then in 2020, it shows 40,000 for capital reserve. In 2021, it shows 315. And then in 2022, it shows 929,000. And then down at the bottom, off to the right there, it says total capital reserve of $1,865,000. Well, those numbers I think add up to.
Yes.
Okay, but the monies that we've allocated to the future years, okay, that's another reserve.
Yes.
Well, there's reserve for property purchase.
Yep.
I'm sorry, in
Article 9.
right.
in 2021 rather. So the 100,000 in 2019 was capital reserve, not real estate. So it would seem to me that our reserve position, if you add, in 2021, we've got 350, 350, 350, 350, 200 for those 2004, 24
Right.
on. And then in 2022, we've got 350, 150, 150, 150, 300, 150. So the sum of those, I don't have the sum of those. That's in addition to the
Right.
1,000,008.
Yes.
So it seemed to
That's in
me,
addition.
it would seem to me on this on this reserve thing, we ought to show a kind of like 3 lines, capital, real estate, and then budget or
Yeah.
whatever.
Or
Yep.
taxes or.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Offset taxes.
So we would have a better view. And then what's not on this page is the 800 and something thousand that we received from
Right.
WNESU,
Yeah.
which represented 2021-22
Correct.
surpluses. So that has to be, we have to, if we have the question's still out. If we have flexibility to allocate that, or does that by law apply to the 2025 budget?
I believe that you can allocate it. And because you're gonna have two pieces, that 800,000 plus your, Rockingham reserved for 23. That will also go in the pot. So, I mean, you're gonna have $1 million to look at. As to what you
Does
want.
Rockingham have a reserve for 23? I thought we were
Well,
a little bit underwater.
you were close, but I think you still got money left over. I believe.
But as a sidebar, we need to get our ducks in a row.
Yep.
On that 800 and some odd thousand, so that we know what we're doing. If that's gonna be part of the warrant for the next annual meeting,
Right.
we need to get our ducks in a row at some point during the process.
And I mean, I'll just say, I'm gonna encourage. We put more in capital reserves for improvements, because I think what we've seen with the high school. Over all those years, but just, knowing that you've invested quite a bit in your buildings 10 years ago. That you don't wanna lose that investment and.
Absolutely. No,
Um,
this is the kind of review that
Yeah.
you went through the
You know,
other day.
things like windows and,
Yeah.
those things, like,
It's just-
we've used some ESSER funds to do some big projects but you're gonna have those. Almost nagging, upkeep projects that are gonna need to be done, so.
Facilities don't last forever without some infusion.
Well, if you let them go, it becomes a disaster.
Well, and I had forgotten, we even looked at like the back parking lot here, right, we're gonna look at like, some of these things, they need to be regraded and things like that, so they're not huge projects, but. And I think if you kind of overlook them at times and you just keep going, and, out here in the front, another one I thought, the granite has sunk about a half an inch. That inlay, not a big project, but you gotta schedule it, and it's gotta get lifted up and, so again, not big projects, but a lot of not big projects.
We haven't done a lot because, we ended up with COVID hitting us, and so nothing got done for those years. And so we've kind of got a nice kind of comfortable balance at the moment. But when these projects start taking money and we start paying out on some of them, you're right, we absolutely need to plan for the future, and so that we don't end up with having to do bonds or any of that stuff. We need to pay it along the way, so as to save.
And the
Our
cost,
taxpayers in
the
the long
cost
run.
of material and labor has
Goes up.
gone up and up, and it's, it's just a lot more than what it originally, even before COVID, you thought about like, oh, we're gonna have this, Rick's coming to me with some quotes, he's like, oh, yeah, I got this quote, and it's like, yeah, no, add whatever percentage, because it's grown.
And Andy, what's stunning to me as somebody who is seasoned, not to have a choice, 4 or 5 people that wanna source your work and give you a price. Holy cow, has it changed? I mean, now you're scrapping for one person to come in, hey, don't you wanna do this work?
And when we've spoken with contractors, many contractors used to have, let's say, a dozen folks working for them. And now they're down to about 5. And it's not because people have dropped out of the business or whatever. They've actually gone to other locations where they can make more money. And like, you can't begrudge them doing that, right? Like, if you can go down to Pennsylvania and make 3 times the amount of money you were making here for a while, you know, all the power to you. And so, and then as people are scheduling, they're scheduled way out in advance now. And so for their business plans, they know exactly how much, you know, to expect. And if you got a rush job and you want them to fit in, they'll throw a number at it. If you're willing to pay it, then.
It just pushes the price tremendously.
Yeah. So we're hoping for a leveling off at some point.
Yeah.
So do we have more questions for,
Well, I have another request. So it seems to me that at our next meeting under budget, we ought to hear from each of the principals with regards to their staffing request. We can work off this list that's in here. Okay, so that could be the one that Jim gave us. And whether it includes everybody that you would quote, like to have or not. If there's things that shouldn't be in there or whatever, but we need to hear from the principals and get Andy's thoughts on that.
I think we can clear that today. I mean, that's what you asked us to come with, right?
I didn't know if they were gonna, how preliminary we were, so I did ask them to have that information ready. I don't know if you wanna dive into it tonight, or I don't know if Henry's fully ready, because I know this is just a little bigger. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it, so, so.
I would say if the gang's all here, you know, why not take a few minutes and go building by building. I've got a special request for Henry though. And that's the gym graph.
So
The chicks graph.
what Mr. McCullough would love to see is a schedule, teacher schedule across periods and roster load for each period. Right, yeah, so.
right, so that we
Okay,
can
so
see how many
teachers-
are in each period and where they're assigned.
Periods and the class and the number of kids in the class. Okay, great. We get that from the elementary schools, because they just tell us how many kids are in each class.
Yeah, that's easy for them, right? A little easier than yours. You run 7 periods?
8.
You run 8 now, okay.
Okay, you want to start with the middle school?
We can start with, Laura, do you want to go ahead and start?
Happy to. So, and Jim, I just emailed you this too, so on page 45, the last person listed, Kelly Pelcher, she,
I'm sorry, Laura, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, on page 45, the last person listed, Kelly Pelcher. She was replaced by Alicia Butchinow, so that name can come off, and I sent you an email about that. That was in that sheet that we were asked to do at the last APM, so I just noticed that she was still there. So that's one piece.
This is, which one is this?
Page 40, the bottom person.
The bottom person.
Oh, the open,
Yep,
Yeah, that's.
That's no longer open,
person.
that's all.
yep.
is there a person there?
Yeah, the
Third person up.
Yeah, she was already listed.
Alicia, okay, so that one should be just crossed off.
Sure, yep.
Jim, there's already a $27,000 cut right there.
Bingo.
I'm not talking.
I know, I was, he was just talking about that line, and so I'm like, look, see, look.
What's next?
Okay.
How many more are we gonna do?
So that's all for that, sorry. Now I have the other end of it. So Andy asked us to come with budget thoughts, like initial thinking as far as positions go and or programming. And so currently SRES has 2 ESSER funded positions. One was originally the building-based sub interventionist that Chris Pratt had allowed all schools to have. And so, we chose to keep that position as an interventionist and not move towards a behavior type position. So you've heard from other schools that they have like a Zen-Den or a restorative practices person. That was a shift that they made. We kept it as an interventionist. It was originally said to be a 2-year position, and this year it was extended for the remainder of the ESSER funds. So it moved into a 3-year position, which ends June 30th, 2024. So that's one of the interventionists that we currently
When is
have.
that one?
She's not listed in
She's not
here. That's Dawn Bazin currently.
Oh, because it's Esther.
Could you
Okay.
just, before you, the last 3 paras on your
Yeah.
list,
They are 504 paras.
these are all 504.
They
right?
are, yes. So they are attached to students' plan.
You don't have any special ed paras at your school, or you do?
We do, yeah. We don't have any gen ed, just regular ed paras not attached to students. We only have 504, which is regular ed, but these 3 are attached to students. Does that make sense?
But there are no additional special ed.
We do have 2 special ed
So,
paras, yeah.
Okay, so you would like to add an interventionist?
2. The other,
Two.
well, it's not adding though. So
Oh, yes, it is.
well, it's adding funds to this, but the second position, so I explained Dawn's current position, so that was originally approved for all schools by Chris Pratt, was said to be a 2-year position, was extended until 2024. We chose to keep it as an interventionist and not move to the behavior, realm. The second position, is a reading interventionist, Loretta Rose.
Bazin does what?
She's a math interventionist.
And the other one?
Loretta Rose is a reading interventionist. This was originally a locally funded position, and it was moved to an ESSER funded position last year by the board to save money in the local budget. So it is currently an ESSER funded position with full end. So initially it was locally funded and it was shifted to ESSER. Does that make sense?
I think so.
All makes sense, okay,
That's to me.
okay.
But you're looking to put those 2 positions into. the
I'm looking to
budget.
maintain ideally what we currently have, yes.
But it's adding 2 positions.
You're adding 2 positions.
I'm adding 2 positions, technically replacing one locally funded position that was originally there.
I don't remember that.
So last year, you all cut a certain amount of money out of the budgets, and so we made a choice to maintain that position through ESSER funds because we could through 1 more year.
Right.
So, the ask from Laura is to add 2 teaching positions to the budget.
Right. And one of the things that we're gonna need, from you, Andy, is your best guess of how many grant-funded
Yep.
positions you think you're gonna have for next year, and how you're thinking about the allocation. Because the Jim's sheet here, I thought between the middle school and central that we had more than 2.
We do, right? And Deb and I are working on that allocation. One of the things we have seen is that title funds continue to decrease.
Right, yeah.
And they may potentially decrease more. And we're looking at those allocations and, definitely we have to look that there are some districts that choose to locally fund some of the interventionists. And so that might change to, allow us to provide some more support. We know based on, we're using data to drive it. We know the schools that seem to have a higher need for those. And so we're going to be looking to allocate our resources there through title. So.
Do you have any title in addition to those?
We have one.
One title.
Well, you do have one title. What is that person take?
She's not listed there. Kara Curtis is her name.
And what does Tara do?
Kara, she's a reading
Kara.
interventionist.
She's a what?
A reading
She's a reading
interventionist.
intervention.
So you want two reading?
That's what we currently have, yes. I'm just gonna share, and again, I can share this document with you, so you have it in writing too, if that's helpful.
Thank you. I'm taking notes too. Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Additional, I'll just say additional ESSER funded programs and services. ESSER funded after school program. I know Sarah Doran is going to share a presentation with the school board, so there's more to come on that. Another ESSER funded item is our summer garden maintenance. And then lastly, and this is just new information for me, and I haven't really thought about it, but it does make sense, given the needs that we see coming in, which are increasing, even though funding is decreasing. Andy recently shared with elementary principals about the support for the, and I don't know if Andy, if I'm wording this correctly, but you can change it, the addition of a gen ed para for all kindergarten classrooms. And Jim shared that would equate to approximately 40,000. So
Per
those
class-
are the,
per
classroom, yeah. So those are the pieces that are on my mind, just my current thought.
Right.
And again, I'll share this document with you all right now.
Yeah,
So that 40,000 is benefits, salary and benefits. Not just salary.
Right.
is this something that?
So one of the things we are recognizing and seeing is that many of the students that are coming into our programming did not get a lot of preschool because of COVID. And so their levels are much lower and their needs are much higher coming in. And there has been some preliminary discussion around an additional general classroom support, not just for a specific student or anything, but just in the kindergartens, because the kindergarten numbers are, they're good sized classes. And when you've got a few kids that are, if you can divide and conquer, there's some positivity there. And so one of the things that, Deb and I have talked about is, just bringing that as she's coming around and talking to boards, is sharing some of that information through the data, right? So it's not just let's just throw out a number and go with it. It's really based on data and what the data is telling us. We're seeing, again, a growing number of students who potentially could be referred to special education at that early age. And if we can, through additional supports, provide that students aren't being referred because they don't need to be referred. So we're talking about we got kindergartners who are still working on toilet.
Yes.
Right? And so that's a skill that most kindergartners were coming in with. And so when you have to work on toileting in a kindergarten, that's taken away from ABCs, right? So just to kind of equate that. And if you've got kindergartners coming in with other social emotional needs or just basic needs that we're trying to address, now we're asking, hey, do we need to have an occupational therapist come in and evaluate this kid? And a lot of times when you evaluate a kid, you can pretty much find a reason that they're going to need services, or the physical therapist to come in, or a speech person to come in. And now as we start to bring these people in and they start identifying needs, right, that maybe if we were able to get them with the classroom teacher at a smaller, you call it a workshop model in the classroom, you might be able to address those needs without needing an IEP and lots of services. And so it's a preventative measure potentially. And so, again, I didn't know we were going to have this full conversation today, so I'm not fully prepared, but that's kind of the brief part of it.
So I think that the point that our job as a board is to do the best job we can to meet the kids, but also pay attention to our taxpayers.
Sure.
Okay? And the mindset that Laura just displayed is the wrong mindset, because COVID created ESSER. ESSER created positions to help boost the learning loss. We will have had 2 full years of the ESSER crutch. And so in my world, looking at the 2025 budget, unless there's a significant change in population, and we know there isn't. We know there isn't a change in population. We are fairly steady, but there's certainly no increase in population. Then the starting point should be the pre-COVID, pre-ESSER staffing levels. Okay, and then, okay, this is what we would like to supplement that with. And get some, I mean, we look at test scores, but we try to look at test scores. We don't have much luck getting it, but the test scores that we saw, the MAP test scores we saw for the spring semester, I believe it was the spring semester,
We saw spring semester.
were a disaster. It was like 23% proficient in grades 3 through 8, I guess it is. Now granted, the slope of that curve is we do the best in the early grades, and it's really the middle school where the big drop off is in the proficiency levels. So I think that, you know, my feeling is because we have a responsibility to taxpayers as well as the students, you need to start with the pre-ESSER staffing
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what
make
I
the
shared.
case.
I did share that with you, that one interventionist was originally a locally funded position, but, and I can add in there prior to COVID, or.
That's important.
Yeah,
Yes, that is important, because I think
We
it's
moved her because all the other interventionists, I think, were under ESSER.
No, we
and that
moved
was
it
part of
because,
it.
because
So,
people wanted to,
because
there was a desire to reduce the overall budget. So
Yeah.
that's-
the
That's
other
true.
thing that's going to impact this is that, you know, and Jake's is talking about pre-COVID levels. We should have next year kindergartners coming in that have had more opportunities for preschool and that. So that may make some difference. Granted, they are finding there's a speech impact because of the time at home, the less stimulation, the less interaction, the wearing masks so that you're not seeing the face, all of that. So that may impact.
That's not what we're seeing. We are
No,
actually
you're seeing-
seeing preschoolers. Right now, our current preschoolers have an extremely high need. So our preschoolers right now have a very high need,
Yeah.
and we are
that's what's
getting a
good.
high referral rate. That's all, they're not, Jennifer and Lisa do a wonderful job with our kids, and our private practices do a wonderful job with our kids. But if we watch that trend, next year, we're gonna have those kids are gonna be just as impacted. And so we are just seeing a trend of kids coming into school with less skills as they walk in. And so,
And hopefully in a year or two, we'll kind of switch back, but there's no
I mean, I think-
guarantees.
I think
Maybe that just the
the
kids.
the demographic that we have is a tough one. I mean, and you know, if it's worse than it was 5 years ago or something, right?
and look, I'll be the first, I'm not a huge fan of paraprofessionals, because I'd rather have, you know, kids working with certified teachers who, you know, are experts. But I think there's a good argument, and like I said, Deb and I had talked about that was gonna be part of her presentation and added in there just because, you know, with the research to back, the reason why that is even being discussed, so.
Well, anyway,
Definitely something we're gonna have to pay attention to. Okay, Laura, did you have anything else?
No, and I did share the document with you with the explanation.
Wait, how
so
many,
that'll help.
and how many
And
teachers?
where did you,
Yeah, how
share-
many
where did you
teachers
share that with?
Just a minute.
Yeah.
You have how many teachers, you have how many paras, and then you've got all of that in there? Cause you just covered the two, but you didn't tell us.
Oh, you want,
Your levels.
yeah, that
You
was
have
not
five-
something that
you have
Andy asked
five
us to
grades,
share,
right?
but yep, I'm happy to do
So
that. So
you
we
have
have
5 teachers.
5 classroom teachers, let's see, currently 5 classroom teachers. We have a, unfilled position of a school counselor. We have a school nurse. We have a 0.4 music educator, 0.4 art educator, 0.4 PE,
I'm sorry,
PE. and 0.4 library media specialist.
So all of your specials are 0.4.
Yeah.
So I think
Well,
I think what we should do for our next meeting is we'll make sure we have a document that lists out all these different positions and those FTE. So,
You've got 2 custodians,
We do.
you have unfortunately, open position for guidance. That's a FTE, that's a 1 FTE, right?
Correct.
And you have the nurse, you have the media specialist at
It's library, yeah. That she just gave
and
us.
then you have your executive assistant.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Carrie, can you quickly just summarize?
Sure, so similarly to the paras, we had potentially the 2 paras at 40,000 each, so there'd be 1 in each classroom, a gen ed para. And so that would be
Are you
80,000.
working from the schedule here?
so
Got it.
let's. The $40,000 is loaded, so
Right.
it's not broken out that way in the.
But that's not in
Budget.
here. We
No,
don't have
they're,
that in here.
none of these positions are in the budget that Jim handed out this
Right.
today. So I mean, I think if we just,
I think just.
I just wanted people to be prepared to just talk about positions, not get into dollars and everything like that, because they're not built into here. So let's, if we
Right,
just,
that's why just hearing the positions is a good thing. Okay, so we got two from Esser, you got your reading and your math. It's,
We're reading and a math interventionist currently right now.
Okay, and
Wait,
then
no,
one
those
gen
are
ed.
Wait.
currently at Central, the only ESSER funded position is the Zenden position.
Okay,
Got that
What
so
right.
is
you
that?
just have one.
That is, so Laura was talking about her interventionist and she hadn't moved it to the restorative practices position or whatnot. So currently it's a behavior modification, intervention.
Mhm.
All right, now on this list,
It's not on that list anywhere.
The person's not here because it's Esther.
well, what about Judith?
Gillespie, I have.
That is, she's not supposed to be in there.
She's not.
She should be taken out of the central.
But bonus, if we're keeping the same line item, we can substitute names and there you go.
Okay, so you've got
So,
one, you've got one Esser Zen Ed position that's currently, okay. And then you're thinking that you'd like a general ed for kindergarten position. Okay, and then you have, classroom teachers.
For classroom teachers next year or
I don't have any of this
Yeah,
down.
yeah, because
So
your third would go to
the
4.
third would
so
go to
you
4,
have-
so we would still
you'd
say
have
the
same
9
thing.
classroom teachers.
So 9, okay. And then paras.
We currently have 1 504 para.
Okay.
And we're looking to see if we can
Others are
add the
special
2.
ed.
Yeah,
Okay.
the others are all special ed assigned to students.
Okay. So you have one gen ed, one
we have-
Zen ed, one gen ed for next year.
Yes.
9 classroom and 1 504.
Correct, and we have
And
1
your
behavioral interventionist
administrative. Okay,
assistant, yes.
yeah, okay, Andy.
Yeah, so Jim, what I'm envisioning for next meeting is we break out each school, like you have the list, but break it out, so here's like stapled together, here's Central, here's Saxon's River. So we go through each one individually, so.
So I want to, carry you have, we've got this list here. You currently have how many title positions?
Oh, I didn't ask that.
Central has 2 currently right now, 1 math, 1 reading.
One math, one reading. Okay, and then, they're of course not on the list. Now,
Well, one of them is, but I think as I heard Jim say.
oh, we've taken that off.
2.
That was.
So Kelly Green is one on there, so we gotta go through the list.
Yeah.
Jig, so,
Okay,
Yeah,
so I apologize, but I don't think everything's lining up today, and so we've gotta go
Right.
through, and just hearing you talk about it though, I'm getting your thinking of how you want it put together, so
Yeah.
we can make sure it's there.
no, he's not there.
but it clearly needs to show who they want to add.
Yep, nope, I got that.
Lesser positions that you want to add,
Sure.
including that Zen bin or whatever.
Correct,
that
yes.
thing is.
Gen Ed,
Mhm.
general ed.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Carrie? Okay, how about you? Okay.
So I just shared a presentation, with all you guys that, Megan and I, my assistant principal, put together. So we're trying to add the Dean of Students position to the middle school for next year.
You what?
Dean of Students position to the middle school for next year. I just shared a presentation with you guys, I sent your emails.
So you have, yours and Megan's, and then you're saying Dean of Students and two counselors.
We have 2 counselors, yes,
That title position?
No,
counselors, no.
Oh, yeah, the other concept. What about
that was Esther this year, the Dean of
what about
Students.
Essers? Just, what about the Zen bin? What about
We
the,
don't have.
We just have the Dean of
Just the
Students.
Dean of Students.
you had that position?
You did have.
The Dean of
Yeah,
Students.
we used to, yeah, but this year, he's a building fair. Not covered under us.
They only have Dean of
We don't
Students,
have the Dean of Students.
okay?
Which would be an addition.
Yes, correct.
And what about paras? Do you have?
Yeah, so we have 4 building pairs currently. And
Are they on this list?
they are on page 44.
I saw them.
Start with, Akama.
Yeah, Aquaman. Oh, 3/4 of the way down, bottom page 44.
Okay, Brian Ogden.
Yep. Dave Chesley, Peter Fry, and William McHugh.
Now, how did these people get added? I don't think we approved those in the budget, did we?
Don't know, we didn't really have much to say in the last year, so, but the good news is, I was hoping with like the addition of the Dean of Students position, if we're, that obviously it's an issue with the funding, like with 2 of those positions would create the money necessary to keep my dean.
Are any of these, paras, 504?
No, when it comes to the dean, no. And you'll see, I sent you guys all of the, did stats and a cost survey of the staff. So we did, tell you guys like your data, so I figured some data that we could get to you guys. Behavioral referrals, how those have decreased. Staff feedback, kind of like what our administrative structure looks like right now with the Dean of Students. Why I think it's important for social emotional learning. Just kind of how that's looked. I mean, obviously we have data, but it's through a month and a half of school, because Dean of Students position is new to us, so it's not like over a full year, but the numbers don't lie, so that's kind of what we put together for in addition.
So again,
Okay, so,
the next time, pre-COVID staffing.
okay,
Okay.
and you have 4 teachers for 8th grade, 4 for 7th,
Yeah,
3 and 3.
So a total of 14 core teachers, correct? Yep. 6.
4, 4 and 3, 3. 7, 6, 5.
16 applied science teachers.
Okay, so we've got the 2 administrators, then the Dean of Students, then the 2 counselors, 4 building paras, and 14 teachers.
But the 4 building pairs weren't there pre-COVID.
Right,
Okay,
but
so we
this is
need,
current.
Which, yes, we
we
can,
need to see it pre-COVID.
absolutely.
and
Then you have full-time art,
full-time music,
music,
full-time PE,
PE,
Or
full-time chorus.
and chorus.
then Kind of band,
Two music.
music, they call it,
Music
they
band,
call
of
it music,
course.
not band.
They're very
that's where I
different.
think seeing this, schedule of
Yeah.
whatever, because the, we're, as I said, it's critical that we have the resources in the right places. And, we know we had another, map test, I guess, just completed. We'll get a look at that. Hopefully we're gonna start seeing some improvement. But, when you add resources as we have through ESSER over the last couple of years, in order to get the kids refocused, and we're not seeing anything. It's pretty hard to, it gets harder to justify, quite frankly.
So we already went up in math and we stayed the same in reading. So,
For, in the
first round of maps.
we're gonna get the report in November, I think.
Yep.
We're on the schedule.
You're first on the schedule. I just want you to know. I mean, that's,
We appreciate that, because we waited like 6 months to get the first one, so it's great to be knowing we were first on the schedule this time. I think the other thing is that testing can show us some stuff, but I think the interactions and the observational and all of that is extremely important. Because tests only show what you're testing. They don't necessarily show all the other things that are going on and all the other learning that's taking place. So we have to, if we're looking at it from an educational background, we have to take all of that into account.
Which I did
is
share,
not
like I said, I shared this with all you guys, so please take a look. Add some.
We appreciate that, Henry. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions?
No,
Any other questions?
good for the next meeting.
Okay, you've given us certainly a lot to think about and a lot to look
Well,
at,
we get
and a
these,
lot to.
is that a handout or is that?
I emailed it to you too.
Okay, no,
That's fine, I keep hard copy.
No, that's
Hard
okay.
copy?
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Want that, okay. I'll figure it out. Okay, is there anything else, any other questions that we need tonight? Okay, then if not, we're on, basically agenda items for next time. The next meeting is November 6th. I'll go back to director's comments afterwards. November 6th is the next meeting. Agenda items and additional.
The data presentation, I think that we have scheduled as well.
We have that one scheduled, right, Andy? For November 6th,
yeah, for data, yeah, that will be
data
it. Yep.
presentation.
So we're
Thank
on
you,
to
Pete.
November 6th.
And we can follow up with the ESSER and the capital improvements and all of that stuff as well, so. And if there's anything additional that you need, if you'll email it to me, by Wednesday, the week before, that would be great. Okay, all right, director's comments. Caitlin, you're up.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate all of the work you all did in preparing this and thinking about what your staffing needs are. I think a lot with this budget season, because I came in right at the end of, or beginning of it last year, and trying to parse this is a little challenging. I think what is helpful for me in thinking about what our role as a board is to support you all in providing opportunities for students in out of school. And so I think knowing what your priorities are as educators makes it really helpful. And I also think just to the point of where kids are in COVID, like they've been through a lot and they're still learning and coming through a lot. And so I think that if we see that there are places where kids still need support, it would be ill-advised to take those supports out. I think that providing as many as possible to continue to help kids navigate that, is just really critical. So I appreciate all of the thought and the work that you've done in making sure that that happens and helping us to understand what we need to do to support that.
Jim?
No, I'm fine. I wish everybody good luck in this endeavor to educate our children and make them good citizens. And but I think the research, I mean, the taxpayer is at this table, and when we bring this all together, we have to find ways to have a reasonable budget. So anyway.
Yeah, it's a hard time. We're looking at learning loss still. They've told us that basically that may never be totally recoverable for the ones that are here. They're just gonna have to, throughout their lives, kind of make progress and get there and work on it. But we are, as a board, responsible for making sure that our students have what they need, what our administrators and our teachers and our staff, what they need in order to be able to help these students. So it's a lot of decisions to be made and a lot to look at here and come up with the best possible that we can do. So just appreciate all of you being here. I know it's the second night during budget season, but really appreciate all that you're doing. So keep the faith and just pray for lots of kindness from our parents and our community. Keep in mind all of those that are facing all the turmoils and the Israelis and the Pakistanis. There are a lot of wonderful people there that are doing that. All the people in Ukraine, and just hopefully our people in Washington will get their acts together and be able to provide the supports that are needed for all those people. And just be so thankful that we live in such a wonderful, wonderful place. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but Vermont personally. So I will, without any objections, I will call it adjourned at, if I can read the time, 7:07.
This meeting was recorded by Falls Area Community Television, located at 1 Hospital Court, Bellows Falls, Vermont. If you would like a copy of the meeting, our phone number is 802-463-1613, or email us at fact810@gmail.com. Falls Area Community TV, keeping government honest.